Hello crafty friends! Today I'm going to share with you my second pack from ArtStacks. I'm going to link below in the description box the video where I explained these two packs in a bit more detail. For today I want to show you all the papers that you're going to get in the full deck pack, and then we're going to create a project using these papers. The kit consists of 6 sheets. The first one has got 8 cards, and I have made them in a very vintagey type of feel. The back of the card is also printed, so when you cut out your card, it actually has a back design, just like a real deck. We then have 1 sheet of tissue paper. The top half is music paper or sheet music, and the bottom is vintage text. We then have a page from a dictionary with images in black on top. We have bird cages, some birds, and then some numbers. This next one consists of my design at the bottom, which I've done with inks, stamping, and stenciling. And then the top part I have drawn butterflies, hearts, and mushrooms, and we've used the bottom design inside the top doodles. We then have a beautiful photo of a bunch of flowers in beautiful vintage colors, and again we've used that design in the butterflies, hearts, and mushrooms. And then we have 1 page of doodles that you can cut out, and then some sentiments and words. The words that are in black are handwritten by me. They're also my doodles. I'm going to create a double-sided pocket. I'm going to use these beautiful vintage flowers. I love the colors, and I'm going to use the entire piece, and I'm going to fold it in half. On the one side, I'm going to create a vellum pocket. I love using vellum for my pockets because I love to be able to see what's inside. And then on the other side, I'm going to use a piece of this mesh tape. This is available from Taperlogy. Cutting pieces that are larger than what I need, I'm going to sew these under the sewing machine. And I'm also going to stitch all the way around the entire card. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can use double-sided tape to stick everything down. And then I'm going to trim off the excess mesh tape and vellum. I always recommend using vellum that is slightly bigger than what you need when sewing under the sewing machine. Then you won't really have slippage and alignment problems. And then you just trim off the excess. I'm now going to work on my 2 altered cards that are going to go into the pockets. I'm just going to select 2. I'm not going to change them much. I do like the vintage feel they have, and because my project is an overall vintage one, they don't need much done to them. I have one of these full deck packs to give away as part of my launch with ArtStacks. So if you'd like to win, all you need to do is comment in the comment sections below. And then on the 15th of November 2023, I will randomly select one winner who will receive this pack to use in their projects. Just a note, it'll be a brand new pack. It won't be this one that I'm currently working with. You will get a complete pack. Once I've cut my cards, I'm just going to round the corners. And if you see the back, they've got a beautiful print. So they look pretty complete. I'm going to add just one thing. I'm going to use a little bit of this script tissue paper. I love working with tissue paper. And I'm going to put across both of them just a small piece. So it'll cover just about half of the card. And I'm going to add this with Mod Podge. I'm then also going to add a little bit of Mod Podge over the tissue paper. I just feel this makes it a little bit stronger so it doesn't tear easily. If you're going to be popping it in and out of a pocket, you don't want it to tear. If you don't have Mod Podge, you could also use craft glue or gel medium. Once it was dry, I was going to trim off the excess, but then I thought, let me just fold it to the back and see how it looks, and I really like that. So I'm just going to glue the excess pieces to the back of the card. It adds additional interest. And let's pop those into the pockets and see how good they look. The pockets are big, so we need to add some more items inside. I have these 2 cute little brown envelopes that I received little items in, and I want to reuse them. I'm going to do a very simple decoration on each. I'm going to cut out one of the hearts and one of the butterflies from the floral set of doodles and stick it on the front of each brown envelope. I'm not really liking the flap, so I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to find the center of the top and then just punch a half circle with my circle punch to create a little half moon notch. I'm going to do the same on the second little brown envelope. This time I'm going to use the heart. The papers that these are printed on are of a thicker cardstock, so they're pretty sturdy and they won't buckle. Now we need something for inside these envelopes. I have these ready-made cream-colored tags. I'm going to use those. I want to just zhuzh them up just a little bit. I'm going to add the tissue paper with the sheet music. I'm going to cover the entire tag with this tissue paper. Again, I'm going to use Mod Podge for this. Again, adding Mod Podge over the tissue paper, and then once it's nice and dry, I'm going to trim off the excess. I'm not going to add any ribbon through the whole of the tag. I'm going to sew some fabric at the top of each. For the one, I'm going to use the mesh tape, the same that I used for the pockets, and the other one I'm going to use a strip of calico fabric. Once I have that ready, I'm going to run it under the sewing machine. I'm also going to run the sewing machine all the way around the tag, just for some additional texture. I'm going to add some additional vintage goodness by distressing the edges. I'm using my distress ink in the color Vintage Photo. And then we're going to pop these into the little envelopes and then into our pockets, next to our altered playing card. The pockets need a little bit more decoration. I don't like them too plain, so I'm going to use a piece of the mesh tape on the side of the vellum. I'm going to put a piece of that down. I'm going to build a bit of a cluster embellishment. Or is it an embellishment cluster? Whatever we call it, this is how I build mine. I'm going to fussy cut another heart and butterfly, and then I'm going to use the heart on the side where we have the butterfly on the little brown envelope and the opposite on the other side. So we don't have hearts on both sides or butterflies on both sides. I'm going to alternate it for difference. I'm then also fussy cutting out this leaf just for some additional contrast and design. I've torn a small piece of sheet music that I'm adding underneath the heart. And at this point, I realized that my battery had died on my phone. So I plugged it back in and I had progressed a little bit, but I undid everything so I could show you what I was doing so we wouldn't miss any steps. I did add a piece of vintage tape on the one side of each brown envelope. And now I'm going to add a piece of the vintage tape just over the one side of the pockets. If you'd like to know how you can make this vintage tape, I will link that video in the description box below. For some additional texture, I'm going to punch a few holes in my sheet music strip. I really love the effect that this gives. A little difficult to see from this angle, but I will hold the envelope up at the end so you can get a better view from close up. I'm also going to tear these numbers that are on the dictionary print and pop that underneath. I think 312 is just too many numbers, so I'm going to just trim that down to 3, so it's just on the left-hand side of the cluster. Once I'm happy with all the placement, I'm going to stick everything down. I'm going to use a clear craft glue for this. I don't stick everything flat down because it's vintage and it's meant to be worn. I do curl up the ends of the little papers and tear them a little bit so they look worn and used. I'm adding one more piece of ephemera to fill the space and create a good balance. I'm going to do similar on the other side. I'm going to use the numbers, I'm going to use an additional piece of ephemera, and then instead of putting the mesh tape, I'm going to use a piece of vellum because that's what we've used on the other side. We're doing sort of the opposites. And then my piece of music sheet strip with some holes punched into it and my little butterfly. The doodle leaves don't suit the butterfly, so I'm going to leave those out on the side. Instead, I'm going to put in a sentiment. I'm going to use this one that is black with the white writing. I think that'll work best with this design. So I just trim that nicely and then place it to the left of my butterfly. Now to attach this cluster to the pocket, we aren't able just to glue it because the mesh tape has got holes and the glue will just seep through. So I thought a way to do that is to maybe stick everything onto the tape. So I added some additional vintage tape, thinking everything could be stuck onto that. So I apply the glue to the vintage tape and then build my cluster on top of that. So while having a look to see what else I could add, as I turned it over, of course, that all did not hold. The tape wasn't enough, so we have to have another solution. So I thought I will put a piece of scrap paper on the inside of the mesh tape and then apply the glue on that, so then everything doesn't seep through. I think that's a better solution. So there is our double-sided pocket with altered playing cards from my ArtStacks kit. I really hope you enjoyed this video and were inspired to create your own. Don't forget to visit ArtStacks. I'll put the link in the description box below to order your kit. You can get it either in hard copy or digital. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Happy creating. I'll see you again soon. Bye.